Hello, everybody. My name is Mike Sturdivant, and welcome to the newest episode of Stark Flavor Stories. And today, my guest is one of my favorite people in life, Mrs. Kathie Gray.
Aw.
Kathie Gray, who is with Not for Sale One Step at a Time. How are you, my dear, dear friend?
Hi, friend. Oh, well, it's always good when I can be with you. And even though we're Zooming, we're still connected. And I love this. So thank you so much.
Oh, thank you for joining us. Our normal spot to meet up is always the Still House at
That's
Jim's.
right.
Our area we go to, so it's a
I got
little
coffee.
different. Uh,
Do you have yours? Do
So
you
do
have
I actually from Carpe
Okay.
Diem today. So I'm downtown Canton today, so I'm not even near the Still House, but I always have to drop by and see Kathy and Pat on the way in when I'm downtown. So
Yes.
so thank you for joining us. And we've had a wealth of different guests from restaurant owners and Lamar Sharp and nonprofit people. This is going to be a little different of an episode because what we're talking about, I mean, we've talked about people getting through 2020 and challenge for business. This is going to be a lot different story, and it's not an easy thing to talk about, right? This is one of those organizations, as much as I respect what you do, and I mean this in the utmost way possible, you wish you didn't have to have,
Absolutely.
because it is such a hard thing. But Not for Sale, One Step at a Time, really dives into the ongoing issue of human trafficking and how Ohio and Northeast Ohio is such a hotspot for that. And that's really what you have dedicated your time and your mission into fighting. And as you and I were talking a couple weeks ago, you and I actually met with Lamar.
Yes.
We had a coffee meeting a few weeks ago together, and we were just talking in general. And in that general conversation, you talked about how the last year and the shutdown and things really shifted trafficking in a whole different direction. And this challenge that we're already fighting, and that's where it kind of popped up. I really need to have you on. As hard as this is to talk about,
Yeah,
this is an important story for people to
for
hear,
sure.
to put on the
Absolutely.
radar. And people don't like hearing about it, people like talking about it, but it's extremely important. So I so appreciate you taking time to join me and tell this. But before we dive into all that, I want people to get to know one of my best friends, you. So tell people a little bit about you, your
Do we have
background.
enough time?
Yeah, probably. We'll be all right. It'll be an extended cut. We'll put out a director's cut later.
Yes, yes, yes. I'll
So
give
tell
you
people
some
about
notes.
you and then how you kind of got into this organization.
For sure. Well, I'm a mom. I'm a mom to four kids. We're a blended, crazy bunch, and been married to the wonderful Drew Gray for 16 years. June 30th. Remember that date.
Coming
I
up.
can remember that date. But yeah, so we have four beautiful kids. They're all adult kids, and one of the things that really spoke to my soul about human trafficking and how I got involved was we were educated by our pastor at our church. And we were sitting there in service. The pastor educated us on human trafficking and the tragedy of it and wanted to do something about it. And he proposed to the congregation that he wanted to do a walk for freedom, which was originated by a group called A21. And if nobody's familiar with them, A21 is a global organization. They are on the front lines of fighting human trafficking. And so our church partnered with them, and they host a walk for freedom all over the country. So we wanted to have a walk for freedom here in Stark County. So our church initiated that. They're called A teams. So we had an A team here, and my whole family, we volunteered. We were a part of that movement. And the first time volunteering, honestly, Mike, is what changed our hearts. And when we heard from an actual survivor of human trafficking speaking, and when we were educated on the statistics and understood what was actually happening to children, human beings, we felt like there's more that we need to be doing. And so then we had another walk for freedom again, and I was asked to have more of a leadership role in that. And you know me, I'm like, sure, whatever you need, I'm going to do it. I did not realize that I was saying yes to actually running my own nonprofit.
Right.
You know me, like you're the same way. We're like, what do you need? We'll jump in, we'll help. you're a
I'm
leader.
happy to help. And next thing you know,
Happy to
you're
help,
on
whatever.
a second full-time job. You're like, okay, that's, I guess I said yes. So
Yes, it's just whatever the need is, we're gonna. And my family, we're all very service oriented people. So of course we're like, well, help. And we never anticipated we would own our own nonprofit. We were just thinking we would partner or link arms with people. But the more we prayed about it and the more questions we were asking throughout the community, we knew that God put such a specific calling on our hearts. And it is a calling because to do this day in and day out is hard. This is a hard subject, this is a hard industry. And we just knew that we wanted to make more of a difference. We didn't want to just talk about human trafficking. We wanted to make a difference and have more action happening throughout the community. So we formed our own nonprofit where I'm a co-owner with other ladies in the organization, and we're just all pretty much type A women. We're moms, and we truly just want to make a difference, and we feel like we can. And so we partnered with Walsh University, and those kids and the staff, Mike, they're amazing, and they have the same heart, the same vision to be the change that we want to see. And so we link arms with them, and Paz of Stark County, they're amazing, and we do a lot of work with them, and just different people throughout the community we partner with. But we're really blessed to be able to focus on education, prevention, and awareness of human trafficking.
right. And you and I met through this organization. I guess it's been a little over a year and a half ago already. I
Yeah.
was at that time helping my business partner start Flavor. His name's John Weston, and he actually has his own IT consulting and web company called Five Arrows. And they kind of are actually the one, he's the guy doing the site for us to start Flavor. But I was helping him for a while do his 5 questions with Five Arrows segment where he went around and interviewed people in the community. And we have a mutual friend, Whitney Prather,
Yes.
who I actually met through John, who reached out and said, "Hey, you guys are doing this awesome show. There's an awesome organization, a person that I think you should feature." So we came to Walsh and we met you and Rachel and we did an episode. And I was just really, one, caught by your energy at the time. And then you and I at that point talked about getting coffee together for like, I felt like it was like 2 months. We got through the holidays and things that we did and really hit off and became instant friends. And I've had the chance to meet your husband. He's a great guy, and a couple of your kids. And I've attended one of your freedom walks, and I'm just blown away by what you guys do and the dedication level. And you and I have talked. We have a mutual friend, Hannah Laps. It's a realtor locally, and the three of us get together a lot at those Stills catch ups. And you just telling us like, one day you were picking our brain on social media stuff, and you just don't think about like, you've told us these stories of like, you have to be careful of what you post on Facebook because
Yeah.
some of these trafficking individuals organizations know who you are and watch your whereabouts. And I'm like, this is like something out of like Law and Order SVU, right? That you're telling me, and I'm like,
Yes.
blows
It
my mind,
happens.
like it,
Yeah.
but it does, and it makes sense, and I spent a little bit of time in the hotel world doing corporate sales pre-pandemic, and went through training on human trafficking and signs to look for. And it's just,
Yeah.
it's something, it's a hard thing that people don't want to focus on because it's such a hard conversation, but it's so prevalent right now.
Yeah.
And these conversations have to happen. But you have opened my eyes to how big of a thing this is. Because you tell people like how big this actually is in Northeast Ohio and with the 77 corridor, and why human trafficking is so prevalent in this area of where we live.
Yeah, well, for sure. I think to start off, though, I would definitely say, we have over 100,000 children being trafficked just in the United States alone. And that's per year, and it's climbing. And so that number alone, over 100,000 children, and we're talking about trafficking. It's sex trafficking, it's labor trafficking, but over 100,000 children. So for us, that's 100,000 too many. Like one is too many. And so this is someone's son or daughter or niece or nephew or whatever parent, because adults do get trafficked as well. But overall, we're talking about an age range between ages 8 to 18 is a primary targeted range. Now, I always want to make sure people understand human trafficking is no respecter of person, age, race, or gender. So please understand that anybody can be trafficked at any time. However, there's that primary targeted age range. And so these are the precious kids that we're trying to protect. And it's preventable. It's preventable. And I wish people would understand that if we could get in front of our children in the high schools, in the middle schools, we can prevent this tragedy from going on and on and on. And in Ohio, we're ranked fourth in the country. And I think a lot of people, when they hear that number, including us, it's like, it stirs something in your spirit. Like, how are we fourth? What is going on? Well, there's a couple factors that make us fourth. The first thing I want to make sure that I share is that when we hear that number fourth in the country, a lot of that's based on the number of calls being called in to the national hotline. That doesn't necessarily reflect the actual numbers within our state as far as like local police departments, local organizations and agencies. It's very, very hard to track human trafficking cases because sometimes they don't even know they're being trafficked. Sometimes they're scared to come out and to make that claim. So fourth in the country doesn't necessarily mean we have so much trafficking happening in Ohio, but we do know we do have trafficking. And a lot of that reason is the way our infrastructure is of our state. You can get to neighboring cities and states very quickly within a day's drive, our highways, our byways. We have a lot of truck stops here. We have a lot of strip clubs here. So Ohio, yes, it definitely can be that hot spot, but we have so many amazing organizations, law enforcement, agencies that are doing this work day in and day out to help keep our kids safe.
Right. And so one of the things in these stories we talked about last March and how things changed so quickly. And a lot of this topic had been on businesses and how they had to pivot very quickly and nonprofits from a funding and fundraising issue. But from a trafficking issue, when you're talking about that age range of kids, it changed very quickly. This industry changed very quickly because, one of the things you and I talked about was children now being at home and away
Yeah.
from those schools. And this ties into abuse as well as trafficking. But most abuse cases, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, are normally caught and reported by a teacher or a faculty member that see the signs and can report it. Well, now all of a sudden those kids are at home in those tough environments, and the teachers might be seeing them on Zoom, but they're not catching up. Can you talk about a little bit about how the pandemic, as it happened,
Mhm.
really changed that dynamic from child abuse and trafficking?
Yeah, that was one of the things that honestly scared us the most, Mike, is because when we heard we were shutting down as a country and we were being forced to isolate in our homes, for us and our organization, it was like, what do we do? Like,
Mhm.
what about these kids that are going to be trapped in an already abusive home that they're living in with their parents? What about the kids that are trapped with traffickers in an abusive situation, home, hotel room, wherever they are? It just, for us as moms, it was like, what do we do? And it is definitely increased. And I think you and I talked about too, is now that the children during 2020 and part of this year were forced to be home more and do their schooling at home. So now they're living on the internet,
Mhm.
and which where the traffickers love to groom their victims is on the internet. So now these kids are literally living on the internet, not just for school, but they're gaming and they're talking all over the place on social media. They're sharing all about the things that they think and feel because they don't have a physical person to talk to like they would at school with a teacher or classmates or a coach or whatever it may be. Now they're isolated. And unfortunately, we've definitely seen an increase with mental health issues with our precious kids, with abuse cases, with trafficking. So the pandemic literally played a horrible role in what's an already horrific situation.
Yeah, we talked with Lamar when we did his episode. He was the second one we aired, and a little bit of a different scenario. But Lamar's goal is to really keep these high risk troubled youth out of gangs and off the streets. And we
Sure.
talked about a lot of the kids Lamar is trying to work with are people that have these rough home lives and they don't have that family structure and that mentorship, but they're desperate for it and they don't know where to find it. So oftentimes they find it in the wrong places with
Right.
the wrong people who have bad agendas. And that's why it's so important for people like Lamar to be these real life superheroes or these real
Right.
life people that these kids can trust and develop and mentor. That applies the same way to this when you talk about they just don't know where to find this and now they don't have their teachers in their lives and they don't have whether it be a coach or something they who they have as that kind of stable figure.
Right.
They're looking for it somewhere. So where are they going? They're going on the internet,
Mhm.
and they just do not understand the ramifications or the risk. It's terrifying. And but like you
Think,
say,
think of the parents, though, Mike. Think of the parents that, which I was thinking, my children are adult children now, but I can't imagine parents during the pandemic trying to do their full time jobs
Mhm.
and trying to homeschool their children or oversee what their children are doing. So the parents aren't as involved in their kids' daily lives like maybe they would have been because they're pulled in so many directions. It's just a huge firestorm, honestly, that has brought the situations that we have today. And we need parents to be more involved. We need them to make sure their children's accounts are all private. We need parents to be doing phone checks and checking on those phones, checking on those apps, looking in the DMs, seeing who their children are communicating to, asking those questions, building that relationship with their kids. Because unfortunately, if the parents aren't there for their kids, there's going to be predators out there that'll definitely step in a very wrong way.
Yeah, and I think part of the thing, the issue with things happening as quickly as they did, there was no blueprint on how to do this, right? When an
No,
announcement comes out on Thursday that schools are closed officially as of Friday and they're going online on Monday, school districts were not set for that, especially a school district like a Kansas City where, some of the kids don't even have Wi-Fi and they're trying to pivot and they're trying to shift all the curriculum. I'm like, a college may be a little different that already has an online component set up and they can pivot a little quicker. Everything happens so quickly. Parents all of a sudden who have these full-time jobs who, not everything closed. So if you were an essential worker and your company was still going, then all of a sudden you have 3-day notice that your kids are now homeschooled. You talked about being stretched so thin and everything happening. It all happened so quickly and there was no blueprint. So it's just chaotic
yeah,
for the rest of that school year. I mean,
yeah,
the last 2 months of the school year was just I mean, life in general was chaotic, let alone I don't have any kids I had to homeschool, thankfully, because I can barely do math myself, let alone teach a kid how to do
right
algebra.
behind you,
Yeah,
honey.
I dropped out of college,
You got
but,
a couple of friends. Can you
yeah,
help me
exactly.
promote?
I live vicariously through my friends who were just on Facebook being
I
hot
love it.
kids. So,
Yeah.
um, but just this aspect of a whole 'nother section you don't think about that you were trying to raise the awareness for, and that's why these stories are so important. As hard as it is to figure out, people just don't realize how number 4 in the country
Yeah.
just blows my mind, and 100,000 kids
Yeah.
nationwide, and like you said, how many don't even know they're being trafficked? It
Yeah.
just
Well,
this
because a lot of times they're being trafficked by a loved one.
Mhm.
Put that into your mind and think that through. A loved one is literally trafficking them for drug money or power, sex, whatever it may be. And so they don't even understand that they're being used and abused. I mean, we're talking about when people hear human trafficking, I feel sometimes they think it's just the latest buzzword. It's not. It's a human life that's being raped and abused for money, sex, power, labor trafficking. They're being abused. It's abuse, and this is why we have to have such a strong stance. This is why we need education and awareness events so that we can save our children. If we could just get in front of them and give them the tools, because there are tangible tools, Mike, that we can teach these kids on how to keep themselves safe. There are tangible tools, and that's why we're here. We're trying to do the job.
So let's say somebody is watching this
Yeah.
and you're kind of opening their mind up for this the
Mhm.
first time. What are signs? Like we didn't talk about this pre-shows, we were talking about what to talk about, but this popped in my head. So I hope I'm not throwing you off with this, but
Oh, no,
what
no.
are certain signs people
Yeah.
should look for? Because educators are trained and people in the hotel world are trained on these things, but this is not like a rampant general training people are going through. What are certain signs you should look for in people or in
Absolutely.
kids to say, hey, if you're seeing this, this might be the trigger of like this person might be being trafficked. What are some things people should look for in that scenario?
Well, I think I'll give you a broad answers because obviously, like teachers will look for specific things, parents might look for specific things, but let me give you some broad things to look for. So, one of the things that I would always recommend is looking for signs of isolation.
Okay.
Like, say it's your child. If your child all of a sudden wants to isolate, not be around their group of friends that they're normally around, not attend church functions maybe they normally did, maybe not attend sports functions, extracurricular activities. If their personality starts to change, you need to notice. That's a red flag. If you notice any type of branding on a child, like the tattoo daddy or a dollar sign, sometimes predators will actually brand their victims. So that's something to look for. If you notice that your child is all of a sudden wanting to just not be with the family, not be with their friends, again, that's a predator trying to control, trying to isolate. If you notice that they're coming home with expensive gifts that you didn't buy, typically a predator will do that, buy expensive gifts. They'll use flattery, whatever they need to use to get them manipulated and groomed into being a victim. If you all of a sudden notice that maybe they're taking a substance, because sometimes they will be drugged, sometimes that these things will happen. If you just notice behavioral changes, physical changes, start paying attention, start asking the questions, looking at their phone. Are they sending inappropriate photos? I mean, we used to do phone checks with all of my kids, and it was random phone checks. But let me explain that a little bit. It's not like I just said, hey, I'm going to look at your phone and, you go away and I'm going to hide and like check their phone. I did it with our teenagers. And something I was taught a long time ago when I was in youth ministry was rules without relationship equal rebellion. So if you have a relationship with your child, you can have that open communication, that open dialogue. My kids knew that when I was like, hey, it's time for phone check. And, let's sit down. And I didn't spend hours on it, maybe 5, 10 minutes going through their phone, asking, who is this that you're talking with? I wasn't accusing, I was just asking because I wanted to see, do you physically see this person in school? Or is this somebody, Joe Schmo from California that you're talking to? Like, who is this person? And to be honest with you, there were times that I'm like, okay, I feel like this person has bad intentions. We're done. Blocking that person and teaching them the value of keeping their phones private, keeping their things safe, understanding who's okay to talk to, who's not. If people are asking you for inappropriate things, red flag. If people are wanting to isolate you away from family, friends, church, school, whatever it may be, another red flag. Those are just a few.
Okay. That whole idea of the internet and cell phone has changed the world so much, but it's only changed the world so much in the last few years. Like I'm 37. So it's my generation that are now raising these teenagers and things. When we were teenagers, that didn't happen. Like it's so weird how much one generation has changed technologically. Like I remember like I didn't get a cell phone until I was 18. My parents like, what do you need a cell phone for
Me
this?
too.
Right. I remember being
I
in
had to
high
plug it
school
in.
and
Did you
I'm
get one?
I am
No, you're
making
older than
myself
me. Never mind.
yeah, I'm making myself sound really old here, but I was in high school. We got a first computer, and you used to get the little America Online disc at the
Yeah,
local grocery store, the 100 free hours, and
yeah.
the first internet thing. I was I was going through those late teenagers when that happens. Actually, funny, this is off topic, but I saw an article talking about my generation of future business leaders, but they referred to us as geriatric millennials, which I did not. Right?
Geriatric, really?
I was like, hold on, that's what you chose as the word when you went through
I
the
mean,
forest.
seriously.
You
If
went with
you're geriatric, what am I?
geriatric millennial. I was like, who wrote this article? Like, that's a horrible, but that's neither here nor that. Just a, yeah, it's a random complaint I have because I've never been called geriatric before. I'm like, I'm only 37, guys. I'm not geriatric yet.
No, you're young.
Everything pops in the morning and I got to borderline do yoga to get going. However, I'm not geriatric yet. But
Oh,
this again, there's no blueprint for this because the people who are now raising teenagers didn't have this. They didn't have Snapchats and Facebooks
right.
and Twitters and all these ways to get to the world. Um, so we're learning, right? So you have to assume that like the next generation, when they become parents, you always have that whole like, okay, I've already done that. You're not playing the game I always played. Well, the game's so much different than when we were teenagers because this just didn't exist. So it's that education level of importance in saying, hey, you've got to take time and be aware. Don't get caught up in the everyday work life. You've got to check in on your
Absolutely.
kids and you've got to look for these signs. So if somebody is watching this and they want to educate themselves a little more, what are good, trusted resources, sites, whatever that people can go to just start giving themselves a basic foundation of how to look for this and how to combat this?
For sure. Well, I'm going to direct you to our site first, not
Good
for
plug.
sale Ohio, not for sale Ohio.com. And you can go to our site and you will see tons of education. And when you and I were talking just a few minutes ago about having to pivot from last year, well, we had to pivot because we did not have the ability to do the in person big Walk for Freedom event. So we created our own, and it was called Community Freedom Summit. And I'm so proud of that because in 6 weeks, we had to take a hard pivot because we were scheduled to still do our, as you know, Walk for Freedom outdoors. But unfortunately, we had to pivot. But that was such a God thing because we were able to create solid content with educational content with our community partners. So if you go to our website, you will see 2-hour clips of our different community partners and get that education on video right then and there. You'll hear from one of our survivors that actually works with our organization. His name is Kwame, and you will hear his story and you will see how a teacher was pivotal in getting him free. So you will learn all about that. Plus, other sources we would definitely say is polaris.org. That is a wonderful website that we get a lot of our statistics, are just going to the Ohio Task Force. You pull that up, you'll see a ton of human trafficking statistics and information, education. So there's so many resources, and we list them all on our website as well.
I had the honor of being attendance at that summit with you and your husband and your kids and some of our mutual friends that were there, and I got to meet Kwame. And what a wonderful dude! Like to know what he went through, and I got to learn a little bit about his story. But he is still, even after going through all that, the kindest, most gentle. Like everything about him, I just loved having that opportunity to meet him and hear his story. It blows your mind because you just can't imagine somebody went through that. But there was that importance of somebody that was educated,
Mhm.
noticing those signs and being able to help him. And I wish, I hope everybody goes and sees his story because it will. If it doesn't move you, then you have a heart of ice because he
Very
is just such a wonderful. I don't want to call him young man because I don't actually know how old he is, but I feel like at that age,
24. Well, at that
okay,
time, he was 24. And I am so glad you brought that up, Mike, because Kwame definitely symbolizes hope. And he's our survivor. And when we go out and educate to anyone, it doesn't matter if it's a business, an event, schools, whatever it may be, we always leave people with hope. We need that hope. This is a God-sized problem, but Kwame is a perfect example of hope, how one individual, just one, was able to see the signs that something was wrong, was able to ask questions, and able to completely not just change Kwame's life, but that teacher saved three other children. So four kids were saved because Kwame was being trafficked with three other kids that all came over from Africa. So that teacher, by just understanding the signs and listening to her gut and her intuition, saved four kids.
And the other thing about Kwame that at least, and this is going to make me, this is to put out my lack of education as it came to this topic before meeting you. When I think of trafficking or I think of abuse, I think of girls because it's planted in my head. You watch like the Datelines where they do the like catch a predator. It's always the teenage girl with the really creepy guy that comes over with the pizza and the iced tea on the counter. But Kwame's like it was a man that was being trafficked. So I don't think maybe that was, and I hope it's just me, but I feel like it's not. That, if you have, I feel like, and again, I'm not a parent, so I'm not speaking from experience, but if you have a daughter, you're going to be much more mindful of like, oh, I got to protect this daughter. But when it might be a son or a male or a boy, you don't have those same thoughts because maybe it's not as mainstreamly talked about.
And
And
that's something
I don't know
a
if
lot.
I'm wrong on this, but
You're not. You're not. That's something that we battle because a lot of people just think this is a girl problem. Oh, no, it's not.
it's not.
Like I said before, it's no respecter of age, person, race, gender. It is no respecter. It doesn't matter. If they can make money off of you, you are a target.
Mhm.
So it's educating again. That's why sometimes people discount the need for education.
Mhm.
They think, oh, well, we just want to talk with the organizations that deal face to face with the actual victims, then they become survivors. But if we don't have education, how are we supposed to know how to prevent it? How are we supposed to know what the signs look like? How are we supposed to know what's actually going on in the industry? So, organizations like ourselves are very vital in giving that education, giving that information to prevent it. And again, we're all in this to set people free. That's what it's about. And it is both males and females, transgenders. It doesn't matter what anybody is, it just matters that it's a life that we want to save.
Yeah. Yeah. And you're doing a great job. And I always tell you every time we talk, I always send you that text after that says just how much I appreciate you as a person, everything you're doing, because I truly mean it when I send you that text. I'm not just being nice, I'm being nice, but I'm not just saying it to be nice. You have opened up my eyes into this problem that honestly, and I feel terrible saying it, was just out of sight, out of mind for me. I would see things and I'm like, yeah, okay. But I guess you have really opened my eyes to how big of an issue this is that has to be solved. And that's why it was so important for me to get you on here to tell this story. And so we will start wrapping it up because I've had you here for quite a while. But so this year, things are starting to open back up. You talked about how you had to pivot the Walk to Freedom to the Freedom Summit. What does the future hold for Not for Sale? Is it, the rest of this year beyond? What's coming up for your organization?
Yeah, so it's super exciting. We are definitely planning our Community Freedom Summit. We decided to branch off on our own and do our own event from last year. So we're going to keep doing that. And we're going to partner with local agencies and organizations and law enforcement. It will be October 2nd at Walsh University, completely open to the public. And it's going to be so good. Every single year we change how we're going to do things. And I don't want to say too much because it's all in the works. But we're going to have an amazing, amazing keynote speaker that will be there that's been entrenched in this industry and has so much to offer. He has a law enforcement background. He's amazing. But anyways, we have a lot going on with that event coming up at Walsh October 2nd. And if you follow us on social media, Not for Sale, One Step at a Time, Instagram, Facebook, you will be up to date on everything that we're doing. We're also working very hard at creating more educational content because the need is so great, especially when it comes to child exploitation, when it comes to boys. We have so much content that we're in the process of starting to create so we can get more of that education out. And the last thing we're really working on too is really getting in the schools. It is vital to our organization, to our community, that we can get in front of these kids, give them the information, give them the tools, and save lives.
So I just went ahead, put my little reminder on my calendar for October 2nd. So I
Yay!
remember to be there and
Well, you know I'll make sure you're there.
oh yeah, I know you will. But yeah, so I know that's a little ways out, but we'll post reminders on our page and support as we go. So please, October 2nd, throw it on your calendar. Make sure you don't schedule it. Come meet me, come meet Kathie. It's an amazing experience. The silent walk and all the things that you guys do just gives you chills, you know.
Well, it'll be different too, Mike, because I mean, it's for men, women, children. So please bring your kids. The content we discuss will be age appropriate. So it's not like it's going to be doom and gloom, but there's going to be so much hope, so much encouragement, so many tools, like tangible things that you can take with you, literature and information from all our different partners. It's going to be huge. We're expecting over 1,000 people.
That's
So we're excited.
that's incredible. One of the thousand right here. So people want to learn more about you. You've talked about your site, Dr. Bishop, but let's go over it one more time. Where are the best places to find information about not for sale? One step
Yeah.
at a time.
Just go to our website, notforsaleohio.com. And you can also go to Instagram, Facebook, Not For Sale, One Step at a Time. You'll see our barcode uh, little thing on there that you'll see. And our logo is the word I'm trying to use. I just need more coffee. It's fine. You look for our barcode logo. Yeah, Mike, you know, we
I
always
got
have.
you.
I'm glad you have a big boy cup today, by the way, not the little. That's
You
for
gotta
another
put
day.
that. You gotta put that out there. That'll be the story of all time that we will never get old. That's an inside joke that you guys will not understand, but it's good.
But thank you so much,
You're
Mike.
welcome. So, anything else that you want to add before we say goodbye or throw out there for people?
The only thing I just would love to add is I just want to inspire everybody that within your own sphere of influence, you can really help us. You can really make a difference. Whether that if you're financially blessed, you can help us with donations. If you have a big sphere of influence, lots of contacts like you, Mike, you've done so much for our organization, just putting me in front of key people that can help us accomplish what we're trying to accomplish. We need more people like you, Mike, that can do that. Just open up the doors for us to come in. And we always bring our community partners with us. It's not just Not For Sale. We're collaborative. That's our heart, that's our soul. We can do more together. We just need opportunities. So, whatever your sphere of influence is, you can make a difference. If you have children, please be involved in their lives. Please, 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 can't express that enough. Our children are hurting. They all need someone to love on and talk to. And we just are encouraging everybody to just be there for your kids.
Right. So, if you made it this far in the video, you now understand why I say this lady is one of my favorite people because your energy, your affection, it pours out, but it's genuine. That's what I want people just threw my pen across the room. That's
That's
what I
okay.
want people to know about you. When they get to know you as the person, it's a genuine caring and it's a genuine passion about what you do. You're not just doing this to do it and say, hey, look at me. You're doing it because you truly care. And I appreciate it. And anything I can keep doing to keep putting you in front of those people or keep hoping, I will always do. You're stuck with me for life as a friend. So I hope that's okay. But keep up the good work and keep
Thank
up the energy because it's a daunting fight that you're trying to tackle. But and to go back to Lamar, one of the things he said, it's tiring when you fight these fights. He made the comment about sometimes you want to put your head in your hands and you want to give up because you feel like you're just fighting a never-ending battle. But you find those little wins. You have a kid who was on the verge of getting suspended that wins a character award or something. He's like, it's those little wins that in those hard moments keep you going. So they just encourage you keep finding those little wins and keep that positivity and because you're doing an amazing thing that I know so many people appreciate including myself, so keep it up Keep up the good work, keep being you, and thank you for everything that you're doing because so many people, including myself and us at Stark Flavor, appreciate it. So
Thank you.
you are
Thank you for
welcome.
all you do. Thank you for helping us. We can't do this without you. So thank you.
So to all of you, I hope that this was something that you take with you as we're wrapping this up. And please go check out Not for Sale social media. Go check out their website. Come to the Walk for Freedom event. Get yourself engaged. Like she said, it's little things that you can do that make a big difference. So if this is something that moved you today, get inspired. You know, Lamar and I said, don't talk about it, be about it. You know, it's up to all of us to make our community a better place and to leave our community better than we found it. And so, if this is something that moves you and that touches you, and you say, man, I really want to get behind this, reach out to Kathie, reach out for Not for Sale, and just get involved. Because I promise you, you will not regret the time that you put into it. So, Kathie, thank you again. I'm going to be done rambling. So, for the rest of you guys that have made it this far, thanks for tuning in, and we will see you on the next. Let me try this again. Next episode of the Stark Flavor Stories. Thanks, Kathie. We'll see you soon.
Thank you. Bye.